My name is Vinod. I'm one of the co-founders and president of Savin. I have two kids. My daughter is 9, and my son is 5. And we're based in New York, and so we've been teaching them a lot about India. We've brought them here a bunch of times. We bought them a bunch of books, and one of the things we have is a poster of all the prime ministers. And just the other day, my daughter was kind of taking my son through all these, and she was pointing to Vajpayee and Nehru, Modi, and she said, "Oh, this is Indira Gandhi. She was named after an airport." And it was so innocent and completely reasonable if you take into account what kind of facts she had available to her. And so the reason I'm sharing that is that we started Savin out of this pure passion for people, for music and technology. And our journey in advertising has really been one about innocent experimentation to a working understanding of what native advertising is. So there's no question, based on everything that's happened in the last 10 years and what we're talking about today, that this is the most powerful marketing platform ever created. Okay? There's been some great discussions today about video, about gaming, about social. But what happens when I put this in my pocket and I put these earbuds in? And that's the new dimension of marketing that I want to talk about today. So first things first, you guys may have heard that Savin aligned with Jio. And aside from a long-term vision and some capital to really execute a grand plan, we really aligned around a set of common values. Number one, we're both technology companies, and we believe technology is important to be able to take amazing products and get them to everybody across social and economic classes. And that's important for everyone in the room because of scale. We also believe that ease of use and great experiences were very important to fundamentally change consumer habits and earn trust, and that's important for engagement. There's no surprise that we both believe that music is one of the most powerful forms of entertainment ever created. It evokes incredible emotions, and it's the only repeat use media out there. Everyone listens to their favorite music over and over again, and that's really important for brand building. And last but not least, I'm sure all of you may have heard Mukesh Ambani say that data is the new oil, and we couldn't agree more. When you mix data and creative, you can get advertising to feel more like content. Right, where it's relevant, it's useful, it's timely, it's contextual, and it's actually in the stream of consumption. So, give you a quick snapshot. We're already in the hearts of millions of users. We'll be coming out with our new look and feel really soon. Here's a quick preview of our multi-platform marketing campaign that we'll be launching with Jio in the coming months. And our company is 200 entrepreneurs that loves to solve problems. And we think from first principles. And with these powerful devices that we have in our hands, millions of companies now can access our most personal space. In fact, the average amount of information that we come across today is more than a person would come across in their entire lifetime in 1900. And we don't make it easier upon ourselves when we access our phones about 80 times in a given day. And the bottom line is that there's just too little attention for the glut of information that's in front of us. And so people, millennials in particular, are just outright rejecting advertising. Millennials view advertising as an unwanted interruption that is eroding trust. They're flocking to ad blockers in droves, especially alarming inside of Asia. And in many ways, this represents one of the largest consumer mutinies in all of history. And so, marketers are being bombarded from all different directions. The stakes to get digital right is really high. And you look at conversations with our marketers as well as Ad Age, you see viewability really means this notion of like, hey, are these users really paying attention? Integrating into daily activities means how can I play a greater role in people's lifestyles? And how can I do this in a very natural and organic way? And so we put together a very simple kind of 3-point framework, and at the center of that is actually my cousin, Divya, who's one of 410 millennials in the country. And the first point is really about emotional engagement. And that's fairly self-evident. That's table stakes. Everyone in this room knows about that. In fact, if you can't move somebody like Divya, you're already on the back foot, okay? The second point is the fact that brands need to stop overvaluing themselves and understand that they should help people like Divya do what they want to do. She's in control. Mobile apps are the ways in which she is living her life, and the new job of marketers becomes less about interruption and more about enablement. And the last point to make here is that every brand strives to tell a story in their advertising. Telling a story is pretty easy, but telling a great story that is repeatable, that is memorable, that is shareable is hard. In fact, it's micro-entertainment. It's a very hits-driven business that very few brands get right every year. So an alternative would be to align with existing stories being told by great artists in the form of music and other long-form content. And so in this environment of clutter, there's this flight to trust. And the new trust is really about beautiful design, great experiences, about respect and focus on the user. And so people like Divya expect to be able to actively personalize their experiences as well as receive personalized recommendations through AI and machine learning. Her homepage on Savin is unique, as are the other tens of millions of daily active users that we have that are also going through a very unique experience. And in many ways, as Shiv actually mentioned this morning, personalization and data science is becoming the new marketing. And so when you have streaming data at scale, some very interesting patterns emerge. Here's a mood chart. The mood of the country can be reflected and mirrored by what people are actually listening to. On your left side would be ages 14 to 24. On the right side is 44 to 54. It's interesting to see that as people get older, they listen to less and less romantic music. And it seems that devotional seems to be taking its place. But people like Divya, their actions tell us what's really important to them. And according to Nielsen, music is the top activity when it comes to entertainment. In fact, people listen to about 20 hours of music every week in India. And a very surprising fact on digital and mobile, that there are more music audio streams, actually double the amount of music video streams, and it's growing about 60% year over year. You take a look at genres, Bollywood is never going to go away, but over the last year, we've seen a 15% increase in streams from other genres like regional and English. In fact, if you take a look at the top 5 songs over the last 5 years, the last 5 years of top song each year, you see a little bit of an evolution. In 2014 and 15, it was high-energy Bollywood dance numbers, Baby Doll and Chittiya Kalaya. And the country got a little sad in 2016 with Dil. Shape of You from Ed Sheeran came out of nowhere to be #1 in 2017. And 2018, Bom Diggy is so far the #1 track. And that's actually from an independent artist named Zach Knight that our artist development platform team discovered using data analysis as well as exercising their own creative judgment. And so listeners gravitate to a lot of artists by age, as you would expect. And once in a generation, there's an artist that kind of traverses all age groups. In this case, it happens to be the very talented Arijit Singh. Sunidhi Chauhan kind of represents a similar pattern, but people like my cousin Divya don't really find any resonance with people like legends like Lata Mangeshkar or R.D. Burman, although their stories are incredible. There's also widespread interest in hundreds of topics that are not necessarily related to music, but a lot of audio, a lot of creators are creating these long-form audio shows. And because of the fact that there are bandwidth limitations and linear limitations in traditional media, especially radio, a lot of these needs go underserved. So whether you have 10,000 listeners or 10 million listeners, all of these listeners count because their attention is undivided and they're a self-selecting audience. So there's a so-called theater of the mind that results. And so over here we have a daily streaming chart. So people like Divya go through a unique experience every day, the story of her own life. What you'll notice here is that audio is the only medium that can actually be with somebody throughout the entire course of the day. So since we started streaming in 2011, we have now collected over 10 10 trillion, data points, of course on an anonymous and aggregate basis, but we can tell when the country gets up, when it's commuting to work, when it's eating lunch, when it's heading back home or hanging out with friends. And in fact, 8 out of 10 times when people are listening to audio, it's physically impossible for them to actually consume visual media. So what have we learned? It's been an interesting journey. We learned the hard way the power of native advertising. When we first started out, we just plugged into banner ad networks in 2011. It was a horrible experience. There were ads flying all over our app. People were really upset. And so we retrenched and reemerged in 2013 with a roadblock model, which is such a great name to use in an environment where the consumer's in control. And so that quickly was deprecated. And it wasn't until 2015 that we launched a truly native audio ad platform where we serve one highly targeted audio and hybrid display ad to a listener every 15 minutes of their listening in the form and function of the experience on Savin. Now, it's worked out pretty well. Now we've run thousands of campaigns with hundreds of different ads. We have an average of about a 5% click-through rate. And we're the first to launch this in India and the first one to do it programmatically. And so, fast forward to today, we have now discovered new ways in which brands can be part of pop culture. And these roles include being curators, creators, and collaborators. So Bira strategically identified that they wanted to align more with hip-hop. In fact, we both felt the audience for hip-hop was underserved. And so Bira made the strategic insight that they wanted to identify with the hip-hop lifestyle as a core tenet of their branding. And so we went out to the 40 million universe of songs that we had, curated playlists and radio stations, and created a brand channel off of the Savin homepage, specifically aligning with Bira and hip-hop, and made hip-hop synonymous with the brand in the country. In fact, take a look at this brief video.
Over 90% of Savin's users fall in the 18 to 25 age group and love Bira 91. With Hip Hop Movement, a nationwide integrated campaign, Savin was putting hip-hop in the spotlight. Bira 91 partnered with Savin to build an immediate connect between the brand and hip-hop. Savin launched the Bira 91 hip-hop channel and partnered with Bira 91 to curate hip-hop on the app. Through aggressive media placements, well-curated playlists, and 360-degree marketing, Bira 91 became the definitive authority on what was hot in hip-hop. Bira 91's channel had 4.5 million user visits, with listeners spending more than 17.5 million minutes within the brand's music environment.
So Netflix took a little bit of a different approach as a creator. They had this business challenge where they had a fairly high price point in the market and wanted to figure out a very creative way in which they could showcase and preview what's behind the paywall. And so they created a series of podcasts around Wild Wild Country and a couple of other marquee shows to give people an idea of what was available there. It worked out pretty well. About 2 million users were reached, and people who actually streamed the podcast were highly qualified people that would most likely subscribe to the Netflix service. And we had double-digit increases in terms of interest, awareness, and consideration for Netflix. Now, last but not least, we're very fortunate today to have Anupama Chopra in the house. And we did some incredible work with Film Companion and Emirates. Anupama, as many of you know, is a household name. She's probably India's most respected film critic, TV anchor, celebrated writer. She was on NDTV as well as Star, the curator of the Mumbai Mumbai Film Festival, been published in the New York Times and LA Times, and written several books on the film industry. So please join me in welcoming Anupama Chopra to the stage. Oh, yeah. Can we get a mic up here for Anupama? So, welcome.
This is odd. It's usually me doing the interviews.
Yes, I know. But thank you so much for coming. And I personally am actually a very huge fan of all of your work.
Thank you.
I must say, this industry, journalism, this industry it's very notorious for being sensational and focusing on the drama and gossip, but you've taken the opposite approach, which is go deep and provide really great insights about people in this industry. Can you tell us a little bit about Film Companion and Take-Two?
So Film Companion is a digital platform. It's a publishing platform where we do reviews, interviews, video essays, everything to do with pop culture and entertainment. It started out as a pure film platform, but now, we talk about streaming shows and comedy and everything, pretty much. The first time I worked with Savan was with the Film Companion sort of branding, where we took the interviews on Film Companion and my reviews and put it on Savan. The following year, we did Take-Two, which is a show that I and Rajiv Masan do together, but we're not ripping apart anyone's movies. We're actually doing conversations. And this season of Take-Two is specifically talking about how movies have shaped the life of artists. And so it's been amazing. We've just had these string of really interesting conversations with actors who are actually very enthusiastic, because normally when they come out, they're selling something. And here we're just talking about the movies that have shaped them. I mean, yesterday we did a podcast recording with Abhishek Bachchan, who told us the best stories about growing up as what he calls a Nepo kid, which is second-gen Bollywood.
Right. No, that's great. And one of the interesting things, like I listened to Take-Two. My favorite episode is the one with Amir Khan when he was talking about scenes
He was great.
from Tara Zameen Par. It was incredible because those are things that you don't ever get exposure to. Yeah. And then even the episode with Ranveer Singh when he was talking about how he went to college in the U.S. and actually read Diwar, I think, in front of an audience of people at Indiana University who were Korean, who were from Michigan, and pretty much got a standing ovation when he was speaking Hindi, So I wanted to ask you, what's your approach? How are you able to get a lot of these people in the film fraternity to really show a side that they don't show anywhere else?
I think the only way to approach it is research and digging in and, going to them with questions that they normally don't get asked. Because let's be frank, these are really hugely overexposed people. They get interviewed all the time. They're 24/7 in our faces. If it's not, in a movie, then it's a show. If it's not a show, it's a commercial, or they're opening some, something or the other. They're inaugurating awards shows. And I think that there is a sort of, not a filter, but a kind of jaded attitude that kind of sets in. And they're so used to, there's this, I have to tell you, so I was interviewing Mr. Bachchan once, and he's of course done this for 40 years, and he was telling me about his schedule and how he wakes up at 6 and goes to the gym, and then, he's on it, and he's blogging at 12 at night, and I said to him, when do you sleep? And with this completely straight face, he said, during interviews. So you have to make sure they're not sleeping on the inside.
Right.
And the only way to do it really is to really do your research. And it's amazing how many people are surprised when you ask them a sort of question that, like yesterday when we were talking to Abhishek, we knew that Ben-Hur was one of his great sort of cinematic classics and a film he really loves. And when we brought that up, he's like, how do you know? And I said, but it's just research, and that's our job as journalists.
Right.
And I just think it doesn't happen often enough. So really, the way to get them to open up also is to come to them with interesting questions.
Right. Things that are not run-of-the-mill, things that they're not coming across every day.
Yeah.
So Anupama, when we were talking outside, it occurred to me that you're the only creator that we work with that has actually done both a video show, especially with Film Companion on YouTube and other platforms, and Take-Two, which is audio only and exclusive on Savan. And now, over 2 decades of your career, you must have talked to now hundreds of film directors and musicians and actors and all. What would you say is the difference between working in a video format versus an audio format?
You know, though there is a camera even when we're doing the podcast, just because you now need to have some content for social media and stuff, I think they are even more open in audio format.
Right.
This is what I've come to understand. You know, I mean, I've done video now for more than 10 years, and we're all very comfortable around it. But there's something that kind of makes it a little more formal. Somehow, when you're just sitting there with mics in your face, we're just chatting.
Yeah.
And I just find them coming up with more and more stories and anecdotes. And maybe it just feels like a conversation in your home.
Right. Feels more natural. Like
It
there's
feels
no
more
like,
natural.
spotlight. Right. That's great. Excellent. You know.
Yeah, it's been wonderful to just discover that difference, because both Rajiv and I have done video, you know, for years.
Right.
But I just find, and I love the audio format.
Yeah.
I'm a big listener myself, so
Right.
I think it just makes people open up.
Yeah. Well, great. You know, I want to switch gears here for a second. You know, many of the people in the room here are in the marketing community, whether they're brands themselves or agencies. And, you know, Film Companion actually had a sponsor when on Savin. It was Emirates Airlines. In fact, Gunjan Cameron, you know, brokered that deal with the Emirates last year. And it was interesting because their whole objective was to really promote the food on Emirates Airlines. It was to promote this ease of use on their app. And the third element was really around their entertainment systems and thousands of movies that they had available, which was very contextual to the content that you were creating. So can you share with the room a little bit about that experience? What was it like to work with Savin and to, you know, particularly with Emirates and its brand message? Because you're a creator and you want to stay true to the work that you're doing.
Yeah.
At the same time, we all need to pay the bills, right? So
Yeah, you know, when I first got the script, I was like, oh my God, you know, am I, though I have to say I love Emirates, okay? I genuinely,
Yeah.
I'm a fan. So it wasn't like I'm saying something about an airline that I don't really care about. But you're right, the thing is that it was an organic fit. So it didn't feel like I was plugging something that was inauthentic.
right,
And so it just came very easily, and we just shot, I mean, we recorded the lines that we needed to.
Right.
Because I think it just felt authentic and organic to the whole, to the conversation. It wasn't like we're talking about, I don't know, horticulture, and suddenly
Right.
we go into something else, you know.
Right.
We were talking about movies and entertainment, and then you go into talking about how great the entertainment is on Emirates
Right.
Airline.
Right.
So I think if people look for that sort of connect, it's just more sticky.
right. And at any point in that, did, you know, Emirates or their agency ever ask you to do something that you didn't necessarily feel comfortable or you felt like would have been selling out? Or does it all kind of come together in a very like organic and...
I don't remember being asked to do something that I was
Yeah.
uncomfortable with. I mean, you know, this was like about a year
Yeah.
or so ago, but I don't think like there was any debate about it. It all felt very natural.
Right. Great. And as a creator, what are your thoughts about the power of audio in particular? You know, because we see podcasting really kind of taking the country by storm, and want, you know, more and more brands to also embrace it. But in your own opinion, like where do you see like the real power of this medium?
You know, it's amazing to me that I can listen to something that I'm deeply interested in. Of course, radio is wonderful, but all of those songs are not songs I want to listen to when
Right.
I'm constantly surfing channels. With podcasts, because I'm interested in cinema, I end up listening to a lot of artist conversations. You know, the Directors Guild in LA does this amazing conversation where directors talk to other directors. And it's all on audio, and I'm listening to it when I'm walking.
Right.
You know, when I'm doing other things. So I'm like, I know multitasking now has a bad name, but
Right.
I'm just a sort of addicted multitasker. I can't do one thing at a time.
Right.
And so for me, the great boon of audio is that I can accomplish many things and still gain from listening to these amazing
Right. So
conversations.
it's kind of like a companion medium but at the same time, like your attention is still dedicated to it. You just care
Absolutely.
about it. Yeah.
Absolutely. It's not like I'm doing this and walking away and doing something else. It's just, it allows me the freedom to do other things.
Right.
And still, listen to things that enrich me greatly.
Yeah.
I just think more people need to discover it. I think enough people don't understand how incredible the audio format is.
Yeah. And also, over the years, I think you've developed a pretty strong social following. 1.5 million people on Twitter, 1 million on Facebook, a bunch more on Instagram. What is your approach to engaging them? To engaging your fans?
Yeah, this is tricky. So Twitter was the first social media platform that I got on, and it was about 8 years ago when Twitter was a much kinder, gentler place.
Right.
It's been an amazing experience for me because it allows me to hear people and to have an interactive relationship. And I worked in television, I worked as a print journalist, and feedback was, rare and hardly ever, it hardly ever came to you. And here it's instant and immediate, right. and it allows you to learn and grow. But I think I'm not, of course, clearly not a millennial, but I'm not even of the generation that comes a little after that sort of had a comfort zone with social media. I've really had to struggle and figure out for myself what is public and what is private. Because I have been trolled mercilessly over reviews,
right.
And what I've said about actors, and it used to really hit hard a couple of years ago.
Right.
But I just feel like now it's part of the game, and what are you going to do? Just
right.
Be quiet for 2 days and they'll all move on. They'll outrage about something else.
Yeah, the next controversy, right?
Yeah, but I actually love it. I love the interactive nature of it.
Yeah.
I just think you have to know where you draw your own lines.
Right. Yeah.
That's very important.
I think to your credit, I think you have, despite any kind of pressure that's coming through, you're staying true and objective and not changing your opinions about any kind of content that you may be reviewing, which is very hard to do.
But I now
in
have
this
a
age.
security man with me.
That'll make a difference. Well, I think we've actually run out of time, but I wanted to conclude the session by just saying that, look, the bar has been raised for what consumers expect in terms of giving their attention to something, whether it's a brand or a piece of content. And fortunately, in this day and age, we are able to get a sense of what people want and measure that through data. And so we're fortunate to have very talented creators such as yourself, telling great stories, enabling other people to tell stories as your guests, and doing it in a fun, relevant, and engaging way. And so I think that presents a pretty compelling opportunity for brands to be connectors, to either co-create, to collaborate, or to curate. And that concludes our session. I hope you guys learned something, and we're available for questions afterwards.
Thank you.
Thank you.